Welcome, everybody. I have a great lineup today that I am introducing to you. Some great men. Henry Sandoval and Carlton Reed are here with me from Black History 365. And I came across this curriculum by connecting with another Kingdom educator who actually works in higher ed and writes curriculum. And she mentioned that I should connect with Carlton. And so we connected about a month and a half ago. And I took a look at the curriculum overview and just fell in love with the heart behind BH 365. So I am here to introduce to you Henry and Carlton. Just really happy to have you here today.
Yeah, we're excited to be here. We can't wait.
Glad to be here, Jessica.
Yeah.
Sure.
And the reason why I wanted to interview them is because, you know, the heart behind Speaking Words of Life for Educators is really about us stepping into our kingdom identity. And that as kingdom people, we're stepping into everything that Jesus paid for. And we want to be able to see with his eyes and hear with his ears, not only our students, but also the things that we're being asked to teach. And as those who are quote unquote gatekeepers of the curriculum, we also get to pay attention to things that are coming down the pike. And so I just think that BH 365 is an opportunity for us to bring in another voice or another part of the story that is often discluded from our current history program. And we've had all these hot topics come up, especially during COVID, with different events that have happened. And then we have CRT that's coming down the line. I know in my state, it's, public schools are even being mandated that parents don't have a voice in our choices anymore about our kids' education. And so a lot of us are either called to stay in public education. Some of us are moving to private. We've got homeschool moms connected here and just wanting to bring another resource that presents the whole story. And so I just want to welcome you both today and just ask that we're going to start off with our hot topic. And that is, how do you address some of these things coming down, public school, private school, homeschool teachers are concerned about CRT, and how do you address that as a curriculum history writer?
Carlton, I'll let you kick this off, and I'll support it. So.
Oh wow! Well, first off, thank you. We just want to say welcome to the Speaking Words of Life for Educators group. We're so delighted to be here. And one of the things that we do with this curriculum is that this curriculum is really it's a welcome. It's really a welcome and an invitation to students, learners, educators, and all learners to learn about the rich contributions of African American history of African Americans to American history. It's not a mandate; it's actually a welcome. And we want to invite students, educators, and all learners to become four things. Number one, we want to invite everybody to become empathetic listeners, fact-based, respectful communicators, critical thinkers, and action-oriented solutionists. So that's really what this is, and we want to welcome everybody to do that. And we really want to invite them just really to learn about. There's so much about Black history that we don't know. And so we want to invite everybody to learn about those contributions. And it's done in a way that's very honoring to everybody, to all kids and to everybody who would learn. And it's done in an honoring and a welcoming and an uplifting way. So that's how we do it. There's so much creative about the content. We have a 41-song soundtrack album that was created for the curriculum that with every chapter having its own theme song. And it's really a great way to engage kids in terms of learning. So there's just so much about this that is welcoming and engaging, and we're super excited about it. So
yeah, and so if I'll jump in, Carlton, and so to address the question, the hot topic, kind of the elephant in the room, and we'll explain how that really rolls together with this book. But the elephant in the room, CRT, and we know that across the United States right now that is a hot topic, and so how we address this with school districts, homeschool parents, private schools, charter schools, is we simply tell them we're not in the same lane as CRT. We are in a completely different lane. We are truth-centric, and this textbook is created to stay right down the middle. We want students to learn the research-based truth about African American history, the contributions throughout history, and we have put this together that starts in ancient Africa, and it goes all the way through, and it's as current as the most recent George Floyd incident in Minnesota, and we make sure that we talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. But when we present something, we present it in a way that if we present something from the left, we always present it from the right, so that students, readers, and anybody who picks up this book can have a well-rounded understanding of the topic. And so our students are thriving with this, teachers and parents alike across the United States that have adopted this. We are in close to over 150 school districts across the United States right now being used. We have homeschool parents that are using this across the nation, and they are all raving about how we have approached this and how we have created a truth-centric vision so that students can walk away and learn and understand the contributions throughout history that African Americans have had. And so that's the way we address it. Once parents and readers and teachers take this book, they're able to understand the value that is within this book.
Yeah.
And if I could add one more thing, Jessica, because I'm just
go ahead.
we're super excited to talk about this. So one of the things that we believe is that we are apolitical. So we don't allow anything to cause this curriculum. We don't want to allow anything to cause this curriculum to get sidetracked or pigeonholed or maligned. We just want to teach the beauty of Black history. That's what we want to do. And so one of the things I want to say is that we believe that we have a formula that allows us to teach the good, the bad, and the ugly of Black history, but teach it in a way that A, is welcoming, that is a welcome. B, we want to highlight some of the unity stories, right?
Yeah.
You know, one of the things about America is that America is a great idea, right? That was in the heart of God that's still evolving. And so it's not perfect. And the founders of our, the framers of our Constitution were imperfect. They were imperfect men. And we're still forging that perfect union. We're forging that perfect union that talked about in the Constitution. So we want to highlight, so many times we're highlighting the things that happened that were ugly, and we get that. But one of the things that our curriculum beautifully also does is it highlights the unity, the high points of the unity in our history, which a lot of people sometimes don't want to talk about, and the stories that, the story behind the story, the great stories behind the story. We want to highlight that as well. So again, we believe we have a formula that teaches it in a way that's welcoming to everybody, that teaches all the aspects of history, that doesn't, pigeonhole or label anybody, but just simply welcomes everybody.
I love that. And I love, even Henry, how you also said about it puts everything out on the table. You hear the whole story, and then kids get an opportunity to make right choices based on having all the information. And I know, even being a mom of multiracial kids, it's really important that all of us, and us too as adults, hear the whole story so that we can actually make informed decisions rather than getting in the combative mode that has been pretty prevalent in some of these kids as growing up. And it's great to have an alternative to help to reinforce that learning the whole story is what really helps us be informed citizens, but also caring people, and being able to be people who promote justice and also peace at the same time by being people who are informed. So I really appreciate that about what you guys are bringing here.
Absolutely.
Now, something that you've both shared with me that's so neat is the founding of this book. It was two men coming together, forged in unity. It's totally a God story. Would you guys share with us how this came to be?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll kind of start this off, and Carlton, please add to this and bring it to life.
Sure.
So Dr. Walter Milton is the kind of the founder. He's the visionary. He's the backbone of this company, and he has spent many years in education. He was a former superintendent and for 14 years in New York, Michigan, Illinois. He's written several books during his lifetime. One of those highlighting his One Man's Journey to Becoming a School Superintendent. And Dr. Milton will tell the story much better than I will, but when he was a young man, and he was roughly grade school age, I don't remember the age, but his mother put him in a suit. He was going to school. It was Black History Day. They were going to learn about Black history, and he was very proud and excited. His mother had always taught him about the rich culture and the contributions that the African Americans have had on the United States. And so went in there with his suit, proud, ready to listen. The first thing they do is they open it up and they learn about slavery, and they see a vision, a picture of a young man being whipped, and it just brought shame and just his negative feelings to Dr. Milton. In fact, so much that he went home and cried to his mother and said, this is not me. What's going on? This, my whole life has been a lie. I learned this. And it was at that moment that Dr. Milton's mother said, you know what, you can change this. You can change the narrative so that individuals can learn about the
Wow.
contributions of African Americans. So that has been the beginning of this, was in grade school for Dr. Milton. And then his colleague of over 30 years, Dr. Joel Freeman, once the book was set in place and the, kind of the backbone structure was created, it needed to be brought to life. And Dr. Joel Freeman, who spent 20 years in the NBA as a player development mentor coach, he co-authored several books himself, but he has one of the largest Black history relic and imagery collections in the United States. And so partnering with Dr. Milton and Dr. Freeman, bringing that together, we were able to bring the book to life. We have 40% of the images you find in all of our textbooks come exclusively from the Freeman Institute and his museum of photos that has been showcased around the world in several major events at the Pentagon, the White House, and several other places in Europe and in Africa. And so Dr. Joel Freeman brings this book to life. Together, this partnership works great. And kind of to touch on what you shared a moment ago about unity, bringing this together, you can see with Dr. Milton as an African-American gentleman and Dr. Joel Freeman as a Caucasian, and for them to come together with one mission in mind, which is to bring people together and understand each other. I'd say they've done a great job, and that's why we're excited to share this textbook with everybody.
It's powerful.
So powerful, Henry. And if I could just add, I think one of the most beautiful things about this curriculum is the story, right? And one of the greatest stories of unity is how God brought these two men of God together, because they're two men of God, and they're two brilliant men in their own right. Joel Freeman is Canadian born in Alberta, Canada. God gives him a vision for teaching Black history. And he says, he jokes, he says, how does God give a white man, an Alberta born white man, a passion for teaching Black history? And so he creates this, he writes this book called Return to Glory, the Powerful Story of the Black Race. Goes back to ancient Africa and writes his curriculum. He also was, as Henry so eloquently put, he was also the character coach and also the chaplain for the Washington Bullets Wizards basketball team for 20 years. He also pastored for 20 years and led tours to Israel and Greece teaching the Bible for about 20 years. So our God brings these two men together with the same vision, and they write this curriculum together. I mean, you can't make this stuff up, right? Only God can do this. And that's one of the most powerful parts about this story is this curriculum was created by two men of God. So we're super excited about that. And it's a story we never get tired of telling. One of the things I say is that when we do our virtual open houses, which you were on, Jessica.
Yeah.
They say we at the end of every open house, we hope you've heard the information, but we hope you've heard the language and the music of our heart, because this is our love letter to the world. So that's one of the things that we're super excited about as it pertains to this curriculum.
Yeah, thank you so much. I just love that this curriculum was like just from its birthplace until now, and all of you that represent it have just such a heart for the truth to go out and telling the story and to help us progress our nation into becoming what we're meant to be, unified together. And I know that you alluded to this earlier, and it's something I'd love for you to even share a story if you can think of one right on the spot. But I know that this curriculum highlights unspoken heroes and also even events that have happened that we don't normally hear about. Sometimes, like you said, the ugly is sometimes the thing that is forefront, and we don't always hear of the incredible stories of African-American leaders who have changed the course of history and helped forge alliances that have been pertinent in the progress of our nation. Would you speak to that a little bit?
Sure. You want me to go, Henry?
Yeah, go ahead, go first, and then I'll share. Yeah.
Well, there's so many stories. One of the things that really kind of gets highlighted or played down are the wonderful partnerships between Black people and white people in history. One of the things we know is that emancipation could not have happened without white people, without Black people and white people working together, and God allowed that. So one of the greatest stories is that Harriet Tubman, a woman called Moses, who writes about in her memoirs, and is that of all the people that she didn't expect to get help from, it was white people. She talks about the Quakers and who fundamentally didn't believe in slavery and things of that nature. And the help that she got was from white people after being this amazing woman who literally was called by God, like Moses, to free over 300 slaves. And actually, if you look at all the slaves that she was connected to help, and it ended up being close to 1,000, because, and she said, I freed about 1,000 slaves. She said, I could have freed more if only they knew that they were slaves.
Yeah.
Right. And so the partnerships that happened, George Washington Carver, partnership about his life, people don't understand that, but his mother was actually Quantrell's Raiders was this body of literally terrorists that would ride into the night and would abolitionists and slaves, they would basically just terrorize. And the Carvers were a couple that literally they lived in a state that really that had slavery, and they didn't agree with it. So that made them very, very unpopular. And so Quantrell's Raiders came one night. They took George Washington Carver's mother and this baby and into the night, never to be seen again. And one of the things that George Washington's mother asked, she said, if anything happens to me or my children, will you raise my children? And so what happens is that Moses Carver actually took a black horse and rode into the night. They coordinated a meeting, and he rode into the night, right, to meet up with Quantrell's Raiders and go get his baby. He took his last horse and he traded this black horse, ironically, black horse for black baby. And so when he gets there, these men on burlap sacks with the eyes cut out. He gives them the horse, and they toss him this burlap sack, right? This burlap sack with the contents in it. And what happens is it basically held a half dead baby that was George Washington Carver. And this was in the snow, by the way. So he walks home in the snow. He takes his baby, he clutches his baby next to skin, and he walks home in the snow. And he's talking to this baby, talking about the life that he's going to have and the commitment that he's made to educate this child. And the Carvers literally raised George Washington Carver, gave him their name. And that's the story of how George Washington Carver came about. He was raised by white parents, the Carvers, who decided to raise him to keep a promise to his mother, Mary Washington, to raise their son. These are stories nobody wants to talk about, but these are stories that need to be talking about, and these are stories of unity. And so these are just a few of the types of stories that are covered that we really like to highlight in this history.
Yeah.
And Jessica, it's okay, I'm going to add to that just a little bit too, because from an education standpoint, I'm gonna bring it down just a little bit. I'm not a former educator by trade, but one thing I can take away is show that Carlton there, that story inspiring him. That's what you're going to see in this book is individuals are going to see themselves in the textbook, and they're going to be inspired, and they're going to want to see those stories about contributions they've had to where we are today in society, from the culture standpoint all the way to just the United States in general. And then something that I took away from this that I really want to share that I'm very passionate about is my story becoming a part of this company. For those of you that are going to watch this from a video standpoint, you're going to quickly see that I'm not African American. I'm Mexican American, and my mother is white. Family comes from England, and I trace the family back very far. I do ancestry.com. But something that has always been very important to me is understanding cultures. And I recognized quickly when this book was brought to my attention that I took things for granted that I didn't realize were so valuable. And one of those being is my own Mexican heritage, culture, and how fortunate I am to have it, how fortunate I am to live where the family tradition is passed down, and it has been for many, many years. And I was told one time by a very close friend of mine who was African American that how lucky I am. And I didn't understand what he meant by that. You know, hey, you get to have quinceañeras with your family when you turn 15. When a female turns 15, you know that you're going to have a celebration and the family's going to get together. And he said, man, that's something that was taken away from me in the 1860s, whenever slavery, during the times of slavery, everything was erased before my time, and everything, the traditions, the cultures, they're disconnected, and we need to reconnect those. And I recognized quickly that this textbook reconnects those experiences. It brings the culture to life, and it allows students of not only color, but of all ethnic backgrounds to understand the powerful kings and queens in ancient Africa, these civil wars long before the American Civil War, and then traditions that are passed down from from generation to generation can now be reconnected to these students, and they can be inspired. They can go into the real world and make a difference and be powerful, be smart, be the most important, be confident in who they are and understand who they are. And this book helps create that foundation for the students, and it starts in the classroom. And as you can see, we have a diverse work team here. And so we work very well together. We're living this out within the company because we know how important this is. And we're just, again, so excited for students to finally have the ability and opportunity to learn about the backgrounds of different ethnic groups. So when they go into the real world, as we all know, we're made up of it's a melting pot. We are all from different ethnic backgrounds. And so we have to understand each other and understand where we came from so that we can know how we can work together. And this is the best way to do that, is to start from the foundation and start in ancient Africa day one.
I love that. I mean,
Yeah.
one of the things that I even have in my book called Speaking Words of Life for Educators is, or my Speaking Words of Life in Your Classroom, is really, it starts out with, where did you come from? How did you get your name? Like, because it all comes back down to identity. Like, do these kids really understand where they come from and the things to be proud of? And I love that the whole point of this curriculum is to draw people together and recognize that really important piece about identity. But we can't close out today without covering these two really neat components of your curriculum. And you alluded to them in the very beginning. And one of them is the elephant experiences, and then the really, really special media side and technology connection that you offer. Will you guys both share about these incredible pieces?
Sure. Yeah. So Carlton, I'll jump up to the elephant experience. I'll share a little bit about that.
Sure.
And Jessica, this is one of the really probably the most important aspect from a tool standpoint for an educator, whether it's a teacher within a classroom, homeschool parent, or even if it's just family and sitting at home and wanting to learn more about Black history. This allows parents, students, and readers and teachers to utilize this elephant experience, which is a tool to help guide conversations, keep the conversation civil amongst a group that's working together. And we approach and we hit head on topics such as the N-word, 3/5 of a human being, slave insurance. Should we tear the statues down or should we not? And we do it in such a wonderful way. Dr. Milton and Dr. Freeman both develop this in such a way that allows for free conversation, respectful conversation, and allowing both sides to understand where they're coming from. Again, similar to identity, understanding where your thoughts are coming from, understanding and respecting each other, that we all have different thoughts, we all have different opinions, and how can we coexist? And so we allow for those type of discussions in a classroom, and the teachers are equipped with a talking stick, which starts from, it really takes students back to ancient Africa when tribal leaders would utilize a talking stick to have conversations amongst the tribe. Whoever had the talking stick is at that moment going to have the floor, and you respect their thoughts and opinions. And then the teachers are also provided professional development that comes along with the textbook that will allow, when it's purchased in bulk for classroom settings, but will allow for the teacher to be equipped with additional tools and how to handle situations, how to set up their classroom, that all circles around creating a positive learning experience for the students. And so this is just one of the many tools that we have created for this textbook.
Yeah, that's so good, Henry. If I could add, Jess, one of the things that we find, this is one of the things we're excited about regarding the elephant experience. The way people generally handle difficult conversations, they either avoid them altogether or they do them badly. So here we're giving you a framework to how to talk through the difficult conversations in an honoring way in a way where it gives you a binary choice, gives these kids a binary choice to go, pro or con. For example, one of my favorite conversations about the elephant experience was the really debate that existed between W.E.B. Du Bois and George Washington Carver. Two men, different backgrounds. Not George Washington Carver, I'm sorry, Booker T. Washington. I'm still in the George Washington Carver story. I guess it's still in my heart, right? Booker T. Washington and W.E.B. Du Bois. Booker T. Washington was born a slave, right? So his whole philosophy was he believed that we needed to partner, the Black people should partner with white people and work together in unity and conjunction. And as a result of that, he was able to get things done, to get a lot of things done by doing that. W.E.B. Du Bois was born in Massachusetts. He was never a slave. And he really believed that in certain things need to happen now. And we can do this by ourselves, right? And so subsequently, these two men had different philosophies. One of the discussions that the elephant experience opens up is this debate that exists between these two men. So they open up the discussion. They say, okay, guys, who was right? Was Booker T. Washington right? Should we work in unity with whites in achieving the things they need to achieve? Or are there times where we just say we can do it on our own? Or is there a time when now is the time? Is there a time to where we don't wait for the convenient time, but we go ahead and press the issue? One kid said this, well, you know what? I won't be backed into a corner to think that I have to choose between the two. Both of them are right. Booker T. Washington was right in the sense that he was able to partner with white people in a spirit of unity. But there does come a time when the time is now, and we do need to act on this. So I just thought that was just what a brilliant answer, right? When given a binary choice. And that's what these kids are given. They're given a binary choice and a way to talk through these challenges in a way that's civil, in a way that is critical thinking, and in a way that's really solution oriented. So
and we have 42 of these elephant experiences spread throughout the book. So it really allows for some great conversation throughout the entire school year.
Yeah, it's really powerful. That's really neat. And then will you also speak to the incredible music selection that's also available on YouTube? What you were talking earlier, Henry, about having a song per chapter. Will you speak to the artist and just say, it's just such a rich component.
Absolutely. Yeah. So Dr. Kevin K.O. Cates, and he did a wonderful job with putting this double-sided album together. Dr. Kevin K.O. Cates, first off, let me give his background. He's a Grammy-nominated producer. In his own right, he is very well respected among the community group of music, the music community. And he has worked very closely with several top artists within that industry. But his passion has always been for students. His doctorate in education. He has always had a passion to make sure that the students, the future of the future generations are well educated and understand, not only history, but music and how those components play together and how we can take our world to a better place. And so he's so passionate about this. Whenever he was presented an opportunity to create an album, he jumped on it as quickly as possible. And he has a team of individuals. What they did is they took the textbook, they broke it down chapter by chapter, and they wrote a song that goes along with each chapter in the textbook. And so this allows students to not only visually, but then they get to hear it from a standpoint of the words that, and when I say that the words, I would like to encourage anybody who's listening that has, it's Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Prime, go search Black History 365, the album, or search Kevin K.O. Cates and find Black History 365, the album. And it's got the orange, black, and white. It's got 365 really big on the front of it. And what this will allow you to do is you can listen to all the music. All 40 songs are on there, and it'll be at your disposal to listen. You can also go on the website and purchase it. We'll share at the end of this podcast. But this has really enriched the students' opportunities to just get to learn about Black history in a completely different way than they ever were before. And we have teachers that are using this as students are walking in the classroom, they're playing music. Kids are engaging, just like Schoolhouse Rock, and learning about a bill. That's something that, as I was growing up, I know how a bill's created due to music, and I will never forget how a bill goes through legislation, and it's all because of music. And it's the same process here for students. So we touch them in so many different ways, just to ensure that they really get the opportunity to learn about Black history.
Yeah. And if I could add to that, Henry, and you did such a great job, Henry. It's funny. I'm the gray-haired one on this panel, and I didn't even know that that was in your era. Thank you for that. I remember conjunction junction was your function. Schoolhouse Rock, right? So I'm sorry, I didn't know that caught your generation.
Oh yeah,
but that makes me feel good. That means I'm not as old as I thought I was. But one of the things I want to say about Dr. Kevin Cale Cates is he is a PhD. He actually had created a curriculum called curriculum that was used in schools, that was effective in schools.
Oh wow!
And he's not just a music guy. He's a PhD. He's an educator at heart.
That's
and
amazing.
The album reached #1 on iTunes downloads. So that's how good it was.
Yeah.
But music is just so linguistic in terms of helping kids learn, and it's really being used effectively throughout the school districts throughout the country.
Yeah, and I took a listen, and I think you and I were actually saying, Carlton, this could be like the next Hamilton. Like this is
that's right. That's right.
Great music. It's just great quality, and it really gets in your head, and it just makes you want to dance around. So it's really wonderful. Before we close today, I want to make sure I leave some space, Carlton, for people to be able to connect with you about getting this curriculum in their school district, or maybe it's just their home or their classroom. But would you speak to that, as well as, I don't want to forget the piece of, if people already have a history curriculum they're using, but they want to connect this somehow, could you also share how that can happen, or what that might look like in some different circumstances?
Sure. Thank you, Jess. So I sent you the link.
Perfect.
So I sent you the link in your text.
Yeah.
So you have the link.
Yep.
Yeah. Where they can go and purchase the textbook if you like. And please feel free to connect with me. My name is Carlton Reed, and my cell phone is 678-429-0997. If I can answer any questions whatsoever, I'll be more than happy to answer any questions. My email is creed@blackhistory365education.com. And we also want to invite you to, every month we have a virtual open house. It's a 1-hour informative, time-effective session that literally takes you on a walk through the curriculum in real time. Our founders and creators are there so you can answer. You can actually ask your questions. We cover every aspect of the curriculum. We also play a sample from the song as well. And so we'd like to invite you. That happens on the third Thursday of every month from 3 to 4 p.m. Eastern time. And we'd like to invite you to attend. So if you'd like to connect with me, I can provide that information for you. And I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you might have. And we just want to thank you so much for joining us today and for your valuable time. So I'll turn that back over to you, Henry.
Yeah, and the one thing I'm going to add is, definitely reach out to Carlton. We've got some great things coming as well. So kindergarten through second grade will be coming out. It was slated to be the beginning of July. It may be towards the end of July. We're all being affected right now by the economy, but these textbooks are going to be wonderful. Our kindergarten books are going to be 16 by 20 picture books. There's going to be 4 of them. It's going to be a collection just for kindergarten. And then our first and second grade are going to look a lot like our 3 through 8 textbooks that you'll see. And that our hardback books, our lower grade level books are all secondary resources that can be infused into your core classes, core subjects, excuse me. And they align with the national education expectation as far as the standards of what that time period would be discussing for students. And so we have kindergarten through 8th grade. And then also, as we started, our 9 through 12 textbook is available. And all of these books are actively being adopted and purchased across the United States. And the neat thing is our 3 through 9-12, all of those books also come in an electronic version. We have ebook versions, so students can connect from an ebook standpoint. And so if you're a one-to-one school, you're going to be able to utilize the ebook. And then again, we have the hardback textbooks for your classroom sets or for your family, friends, church, whatever it may be. If you want to purchase it as a gift, those are available as well.
Yeah. Well, thank you both for your time today. Thank you for sharing about this great resource. And thank you. I am holding up my own copy right now. I just got in the mail over this weekend, and I'm really excited for my family to delve into it and just learn some of these stories we've never heard before, because I think it just makes us even more proud of the people that we connect with, friends and family, but also for the rich history that our nation holds and the opportunity we have to make it an even better place to live. So I just want to thank you both, Henry and Carlton, for your time today. And I look forward to you, the audience, connecting with Carlton about how you could bring this to your classroom, because it's an awesome resource. All right. Well, thank you, everybody.
Thank you, John.